Hello, all my friends in the Spiritist community. Welcome back to another edition of Spiritism, a closer look evolution, presented by Kardec Radio. By the way, I don't know if you missed it, but this past weekend we celebrated our 10-year anniversary at Kardec Radio. Such an achievement, incredible. A lot of work throughout the 10 years. It was a great. We had a great time. Our hearts full of joy and love. Anyway, so I'm Luis Lima, and this is our program number 15. We have been discussing in the last, I would say, at least 5 or 6 programs about in more depth, the evolution of the intelligent principle. So we went through plants kingdom, animal kingdom. We detailed the animal kingdom a little bit more on our last meeting, and there's a reason for that. I decided to do that because today we're going to talk about the evolution of the brain. And when we spoke about the animal kingdom, the development and evolution of the intelligent principle within the animal kingdom, we discussed things like how some of the organs were they passed through an evolution process, the brain being one of them. Not only the brain, but we spoke about lungs and different parts of the physical human body. And the brain, in the same way, starts all the way in the past. So we presented this last time. Briefly, we spoke about the invertebrates, then we got into the vertebrates. This is what it is. So we went through a few structures and going through some of the species. So we got to the fishes. There was a very important milestone, I would say, which is the pineal gland, right? That's very, very important for us spiritists. We are going to discuss this a little bit more further on our talks. Then we got into the reptiles. Then from there, birds and mammals. And we briefly said a few things. We wanted to detail this a little bit more, but focused on the brain, development and the functionality of the brain, which, throughout the animal kingdom, it goes through several steps. It goes through its own evolutionary process. So one interesting thing is when we look at the brain from these old times, this is something that it's really a kind of a scientific study. So science, academic science, or official science, if you will, they are parts of the of academic science, are very interested in trying to understand how this whole thing developed, how this whole thing happened. And throughout time, we had several brilliant personalities in science and scientists bringing information, some of them breakthrough information that we could attach to past knowledge and build up as we go along information about the brain, evolution, species, and all of that. So there was one particular writer, scientist, researcher, Paul MacLean. He came with a very interesting approach after years and years, of course, of dedication and study. And this is more or less in very short words, just make sure we're not doing a full-blown scientific study here because, that's something you can read on the side. But we are using a lot of scientific information to get to what Spiritism tells us, how the evolution of the brain took place. So we're going to cross-match these things, okay? Scientific information and Spiritist information. So coming back here, Paul MacLean, he had this idea that the brain, with time, was formed by adding layers, per se. Let's just call it layers for now. We're going to explain it a little bit later. So the first layer is when the first animals had some nervous system with a controlling organ that resembles what today is the brain in a human body. And he relates that to the reptiles. So that brain that appeared throughout the evolutionary process in those animals, and still our brain develops from there. So our brain has 3 layers, according to him. The inner layer, or the first layer to be to appear, he calls reptilian brain. Okay, well, I'm just saying names for now. We're going to explain a little bit more. The second layer comes up, several thousands of years later, paleomammalian brain. And more recently, and that's what we our human brains have, and that's called the neo-mammalian. Of course, neo-mammalian has reptilian and paleomammalian and much more. And so paleomammalian has reptilian and more. So this is his general idea. When he came out with this information, it was readily, very well accepted within the scientific community. Then with the years coming by and more research and more understanding, more logic behind everything, some of the authors started to say, that's not really what it is, that's not really complete. So there are different lines of thought. It's not really up to us to discuss. I'm just letting you know. But Paul MacLean was the first to bring this whole thing up. So if you want to use a more modern word, on his time, he was a revolutionary guy when he published all this information. Okay, then when we go to look at what Spiritism tells us, and I'll tell you, most of the information that we have about the brain, beautifully laid out by Spirit Andre Luiz, comes in the book In the Greater World. In the Greater World. He has, on that book, he has 2 full chapters where he talks at length about the brain and evolution and so on and so on. So let's see what it says, right? That's the goal here. Try to get what he says, Andre Luiz, and cross against what Paul MacLean and others brought to us. So Andre Luiz, he tells us that we have a mental realm, some people call mental house, and that would have 3 layers, just like Paul MacLean is telling us here. And these 3 layers, he doesn't use these scientific names, right? He uses other names, but we're still talking about the same idea of 3 layers of a brain, that where the second brain was added with time when we were ready for another evolutionary step, and the 3rd layer came later, same way. So what Paul MacLean calls the reptilian brain, Spirit Andre Luiz calls primitive brain. The primitive brain. On top of this brain comes something else. It's called the intermediate brain, or intermediate zone brain. And on top of that, there's a 3rd layer he called the frontal lobes. Very interesting, because it's more or less in line with what the scientific community is basing their studies on. There's only one small slight adjustment that we need to make here to this comparison. It's not really side by side, as you see, green to green, blue to blue, red to red. So we're going to make a kind of a correction, an adjustment, I would say, to reflect more of a reality when you cross these 2 informations, okay? So for Andre Luiz, the primitive brain includes both the reptilian and the paleomammalian. The intermediate zone and the frontal lobes, according to Andre Luiz, is what science calls neo-mammalian, okay? So those are just references for you. It doesn't necessarily mean something is right or wrong, okay? But let's keep going here. So we're right now, so far we are comparing the evolutionary side from science with what Andre Luiz is telling us, and I call this mental realm. And I call this mental realm because it's the name of the chapter on the book, chapter 3. So if we look at this, considering these 3 layers, okay, considering the type of energy that what goes on these 3 levels, on the bottom level, on the reptilian, what we have in there, it's just instinct. There's no highly thinking, there's no strategy per se. It's just subconscious instinct. Animals, or if you think of the name reptilian, right? So he's referring back to the reptiles. It's all instinct. For most animals, it's all instinct. For the second layer, what we see in the intermediate zone brain is everything that relates to the present moment. It's what we do today, what we do now, what we are concerned about, what we want to do, what we have acquired so far, right? That's it. It's living the present moment. And the green layer here, I'm going to call by colors because it's easier, right? So on the green layer, we have our objectives. That's our higher brain. Objectives require a lot more than just living now. And that's something, for example, that we can do, we humans, but the animals can't. You can teach a monkey, which is, in quotes, a close relative, right? We can teach a monkey how to play a song in the piano. It will take time. It will take years. But yes, it's possible to be done. But once he learns that song, the only thing he does is play that song. You cannot tell him, okay, you learned this one, I'll play another one. He can't do that because it requires strategy. It's a different objective. They cannot do this. Okay, that's something that we earned with time. And they didn't. And the animals, they're still under development, if you will. If we think about another type of structure, which is the individual itself, on the bottom, okay, what we have happening in the reptilian brain is automatic impulses. The soul impulses, everything that's automated. Automations in the perispirit, that's important. For example, digestion. If you just ate something, you don't have to be concerned and tell everybody, hey guys, stop, don't talk to me right now because I'm digesting food. No, I can't do this because I'm digesting food. It isn't like that. Same for breathing, same for heart beating. These things have all been automated in our perispirits. That's what the automatic impulses refer to. We don't have to think, it just happens at our level, humans. In the middle, intermediary zone brain, we are concerned about, like I said, the present moment, what we have, current acquisitions, like our inventory, who am I, that kind of thing. You're looking at you right now, today, okay? And on the top, superior concepts. So we have the ability to want more. We look at our current acquisitions and we can say, well, okay, I'm okay. I kind of, let's just say that you think that you're okay where you are, but I want more. I want something else. I want to go to the next level. We can bring this up as a concept, and from there we assemble our strategies, we go to work, per se. But you see, the animals can't do that because they don't have the brain, the green row. I'm calling by colors because it's just easier, okay? If we look at the focus of these things, the reptilian brain focuses on the habits. Everything that became a habit is going to be there. And that's interesting because behavior, acquired behavior, will be there. For example, if you are an aggressive person and you really don't care, you don't want to get better, you keep going as you are and keep going, it's just a habit. So you are aggressive and you don't even notice. You don't even can understand that you are. There's nothing tells you that you are, because for you, it's just another habit, okay? In the middle, what we have is effort and will. Again, that's now what we're doing now. So we want to do something, we put our efforts on doing something. That's the present moment. And up there, the focus is on goals and ideals, and that requires creativity. Like I said, the monkey cannot, well, now I'm going to compose my own song. You can't do that, okay? So ideals, goals, creativity, those are all in there on the top layer. Okay, if we look at the level of consciousness, in the bottom, what we have is anything that is subconscious. We've learned it's automated in a perispirit. We're not going to stop everything to digest food or to breathe, nothing like this. In the middle, it's at the conscious level. It's who I am now, what I'm doing today, what we are. We are going through this, we're going through that. We have this particular situation to resolve. We don't want to go this way because it's going to create another problem. It's the now, it's the conscious level. And up there is the superconscious level, which is at the spirit level. They, for example, when we think about the question 6.1, right, where are written the laws of God, they are there. We know they're there. It's just that it doesn't mean that we're going to be by the book all the time. It's an evolutionary process. We go through it. Okay. And finally, if you look at timeline, here in the bottom, you're looking at the past. So people who concentrate on the past, they are really missing because they are not doing anything present and even less future. Okay. So, like I said, today, the present moment, which is the middle section here, the middle row, is what we are today. But we want to go up and we want to be on the green. So that's the goal. That's one of the purposes in life, right? To go through the next level, to go to the next level and follow the evolutionary path towards perfection. So this image here, I think it's my attempt, okay, to get everything that's written on the book in those 2 chapters and lay out in a graphic form, which I think it's a little bit more, I would say it's a little bit easier for most people. Okay, so that's my own attempt. So let's keep going here. Let's look at this a little bit more in detail. Okay, so let's clean out the picture and let's compare reptilian versus the neo-mammalian, which is the frontal lobe. Okay, what do we have on each one here? Reptilian has to do with animals and territorial demarks and power, hierarchy, social hierarchy. These things are, they are processed by the reptilian brain. For example, if somebody comes to help you do something and you kind of, even with our hands, involuntarily per se, we do this, we say, no, this here, you don't touch. We do with our hands as if you were demarking the territory. Yeah, this is the line. You can't come in here. This is mine. You don't touch this one, right? Something like this, if we do this, and especially with the hands, if we do this and we don't really process at the conscious level, that means this is being archived, it's being automated in the perispirit, and it's processed by the reptilian brain. Power, same thing. I want to demonstrate power. I want to be the lion. I want to be, the tiger. I want to be the eagle. All of those things that there are certain animals that bring the general idea of power, right? And that's why, because our reptilian brain aligns with their behavior per se. We don't want to be living this way. We want to be living on the green. To live on the green, we got to get away from power, territorial stuff, demarks and all of that, and go to it. There is no demark. Everything is one thing. It's full expansion of consciousness. There's a whole universe out there, and I'm putting a mark on the universe. I'm doing a little square here. You see, that's something that we want to get away from. Of course, we all do this. It's a learning process, but that's exactly why I think the book In the Greater World is such a great book, because he lays this out clearly so we can, read and learn from it. Here's another one. When we talk about instinct in the reptilian brain, on the green brain, okay, on the frontal lobe, we don't want that. We want logic and rationality. We want to think. We want to look at the situation and say, okay, let me think of what's happening here. Oh, okay, I understand this. Logic and rationality. Otherwise, it's going to be instinct. A lot of times we act, or mostly react, based on instinct. And then later on, when we recoup, per se, logic, we go like, wow, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have act this way or act that way, right? There's a traditional phrase in the studies of brain that we say like this: when we are attached to the reptilian brain, the frontal lobe is closed. It's like if you close the frontal lobe. If you close the frontal lobe, your creativity goes away, your logic and rationality goes away. You're just like an animal, right? It happens a lot when you're being stressed by somebody, by some situation, and we just start being aggressive and we yell at people, whoever they are. We don't even detect, that's the word, who they are around us. We just yell in pure instinct. Later on, we're going to look at the situation with, then the frontal lobe opens up and we go back to the situation and we're going to look at it with completely different eyes. Okay, so in the reptilian brain, right, remember the timeline, we are attached to the past. If we are attached to the past, a lot of us, actually most of us, are attached to some kind of guilt in the past. It could be conscious guilt coming from this lifetime. It could be something that it's not expressed as a conscious, as something conscious, because it comes from a past life or situations in past lives. So we feel guilt, and that kind of takes over and determines you're not going to go ahead. It's like we freeze in time, thinking or reliving the guilt all the time. We don't want to do that. We want liberation. We want to have a mind that is open, wide open to the universe and to everything spiritual, God, and everything. Okay? Here's another one. In the reptilian brain, what we have is survival. Animals survive. You see, when a lion goes after the deer, the only thing the deer is thinking is, I need to survive this thing. And he will make, turns and go zigzagging, trying to escape. But he's in survival mode. For some of us, we do the same thing. The news that we have on our TV and on the internet are very much forcing us to live in survival mode. If we buy the idea of living in survival mode, oh my God, this is going to happen. Wow, this is good. Oh my God, what do I do? If we buy this, we cannot grow, because it's either or. The cells, proteins inside the cells of our bodies live that way. Cells in survival mode or cells in growth mode. Cells and proteins, they cannot grow if they are afraid of what's going to happen, if they are afraid of being killed or something. That starts at the cell level. So it takes over all the body. So survival or growth. We want to grow. We don't want to survive all the time. Okay? So in line with survival and growth comes fear and love. If we are in survival mode, we are afraid of something. Something is happening and we are stressed. We don't like it. And, there's fear. Okay? The other way around is there's love. I want to grow. I want love. Well, what makes you grow? Love is the only thing that makes you grow. Right? Love in all its forms. Charity being one of them. Charity being love in action. It's a form of love. So everything is different. When we look at this with our higher brain, I want to do things with love. I don't want to do things because I'm afraid of. Okay, and here's the last one, so we can wrap up this idea for today. Reptilian brain works on problems. If you work on a problem, it's something that already happened. It might have been a second ago or 2 decades ago or this morning. It's in the past. A problem is something that has already taken place. It has already happened. We don't want to be living in the problems. We want to be living in the solutions, which is take it to the next level. Leave the problems behind. If we feed the problems all the time, if we go back and, oh my God, this happened yesterday. Oh, 2 days from now, oh my God, this happened 2 days ago. 3 days from now, oh my God, this happened 3 days ago. This becomes survival. We need solutions. We cannot be perfect. We cannot reach perfection by thinking of problems. We need to think of solutions to what happened. Solutions to the problems that and we will face troubles and problems. That's why we're here. Trials and expiations, right? Okay, so in the book, In the Greater World, there's a very interesting phrase that I want to summarize with. The brain, physical, right? Physical brain, is the sacred organ of the mind's manifestation on the journey from primitive animality to human spirituality. Take this to your pillow tonight. The brain, so you can think of, right? The brain is a sacred organ of the mind's manifestation on the journey from primitive animality to human spirituality. Mind's manifestation is what the spirit tells the brain to do. The spirit is in command, not the brain. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I wanted to thank for your participation, Vanessa, Arnaldo. Thank you so much. We are always happy to be here discussing all of these things, right? Some of the topics are very, I would say, very challenging, very interesting. And don't forget, okay, at the end of every meeting, go to participate on our Spirit Trivia. Just go to evolution.spirittrivia.com. You're going to see a question with some options. Participate with us, cast your answer. By the way, just to make sure you understand this, we do not collect anything at all. This is completely 100% anonymous, no email address, no name, no IP address, no anything, okay? We do not collect any information from you. We just want you to participate with us. That's all. Participating is learning. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed today's talk, and I'll see you next week on Wednesday for our program number 16. Thank you.